I moved into the Birchwood apartments in '74, just after my husband passed. The building had that old charm, cracked wallpaper, humming radiators, and a faint smell of pipe smoke lingering in the halls. Everyone knew everyone, except for the new tenant in 3B, Mr. Garner. Quiet man, early 40s, polite but distant. I'd see him leave late at night, always dressed neatly with his hat pulled low. He carried a brown suitcase every time, but never seemed to return with it. The first time I heard the noise, it sounded like someone dragging furniture at 2:30 in the morning. The next night, it was hammering, muffled, irregular, almost desperate. I mentioned it to the landlord, but he said, "Garner works nights, probably fixing things on his day off." But he didn't work nights. No one knew where he worked. Then there was the smell, a thick, sweet odor that drifted from under his door, like spoiled meat mixed with cleaning fluid. I started keeping my window open even in winter. One night, I saw him through the peephole. He was dragging a large, rolled-up rug down the hallway, something heavy. He paused, as if he could feel me watching. His head tilted, and he smiled, that polite, hollow smile. Then he whispered, "You should sleep, Mrs. Morris." 2 days later, police filled the hallway. They found what was left of 3 missing women in his apartment walls, carefully plastered and painted over. They said he'd been doing it for years. I still live here. Sometimes when the pipes creak at night, it sounds just like that dragging noise again. People always said Ed was polite. Polite in that quiet, uncomfortable kind of way. He'd come by my little grocery every Thursday. Bread, kerosene, a few tins of lard, and once in a while a bag of nails or twine. He never said much, just nodded, smiled that thin-lipped smile, and sometimes talked about his mama. Always mama, never mother. I used to think he was just lonely, the kind of man who'd never left the county, never danced, never really lived outside those farm walls. His house. That house that sat like a sore tooth at the edge of the cornfields. Paint peeled, roof sagging, curtains always drawn. I remember thinking it looked tired, like the house itself wanted to sleep. A night so cold the trees snapped like bones. The sheriff's car went screaming past my porch, sirens echoing all the way down County Road A. That sort of noise didn't happen in Plainfield. You heard a gunshot during hunting season, sure, but not sirens, not then. I saw the deputy the next morning at the diner. He looked pale, eyes hollow. I asked if everything was all right. He just said, "You don't want to know, Clara." But I found out anyway. Everyone did. They'd found Bernice Worden, or pieces of her, hanging in Ed's shed. And that was just the beginning. The papers called it a house of horrors. That was generous. They didn't print half of it. Not the masks, not the lampshades, not the belt. I remember the smell that came from that place when they opened it up. Sweet and rotten, like something that should have been buried a long time ago. It clung to your hair, your clothes, even after you left. They burned it down the following year. Said it was for safety. Kids might wander in, they said. But we knew the truth. Plainfield wanted to forget. You can't sell milk next to a murder farm. The night it burned, I watched from my porch. Flames curling up into the cold air, the wind carrying ashes toward the cornfield. And for a second, just 1 second, I thought I heard something crack inside the blaze. Like laughter. By the 1970s, people were making movies about him. Psycho, Chainsaw, Silence of the Lambs. Hollywood turned him into a myth, a name whispered in dark theaters. But we were the ones who had to live with the smell when the snow melted. Every spring that soil turned dark and wet, and nothing grew right there again. No corn, no grass, just a bare, sick patch in the middle of the field. Folks drive through town sometimes asking for directions. Where did it happen? I tell them it's all gone. But that's not true. You can't burn what's already soaked into the ground. And every now and then, when the wind blows just right, you can still catch a whiff of that same sweet, rotten smell, faint, like something waking up. I still see Ed in my dreams sometimes, standing in the grocery aisle, holding a can of soup, smiling that shy smile. And I always wake up before he reaches the counter. They say monsters don't come from nowhere, but I watched one come from down the road, carrying groceries. They called him the Phantom. I just called him Trouble. Back in '46, Texarkana was the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and their hearts wide open. I ran a little gas station off Richmond Road, fixed tires, filled tanks, listened to gossip. Every Friday night, the kids would head up toward the edge of town, where the trees leaned close over the dirt road. We called it Lover's Lane. Engines would hum, radios played softly, and the stars above seemed close enough to touch. Then one night, the music stopped. It was late March when she came running, barefoot, dress torn, skin scratched raw from the thorns. I remember her eyes, wide, unblinking, like she'd seen the devil himself. She was covered in blood that wasn't all hers. Said a man dragged her boyfriend out of the car. Big fellow, wore a sack mask with holes cut out, like he'd made it in a hurry. He didn't speak, not a word, just breathed heavy through that fabric, slow and steady, like he had all the time in the world. Her boyfriend was dead before sunrise, shot twice. The paper called it the Moonlight Murders. After that, Texarkana changed overnight. Shops closed early, folks bought padlocks, guns, and guard dogs, but no one slept because he kept coming back. 5 attacks in 10 weeks. Same story every time. A couple parked somewhere quiet, windows fogged, and then the whistle. Just one. Low, slow note in the dark. Then silence. Then screaming. They never caught him. Not a print, not a name, not even a face. Some said he was a soldier who'd come home wrong. Others swore he was a cop. I just figured evil doesn't need a uniform, just a place to hide. Years rolled on. By the '70s, kids forgot. Thought it was just a scary story old folks told to keep them out of trouble. Then in '76, a movie crew came to town. The town that dreaded sundown, they called it. They filmed right there. Same bridge, same road, same damn shadows. I remember that night clear as yesterday. I was locking up the shop, tools still warm in my hands. The air felt heavy, like a storm, waiting to break. Out on the road, I saw headlights, parked in the same spot
where the first couple died. 2 shadows inside. Still. Too still. I watched a moment, blinked. When I opened my eyes, one of them was gone. Thought maybe they drove off, but the lights were still on, engine still idling. Only one shadow left now, sitting there, motionless. I didn't go closer. I just turned the lock on my shop door twice instead of once. Next morning, a kid found boot prints in the mud, deep ones, fresh, size 12, heading straight toward the trees. The sheriff said it was probably one of the movie extras, but no one was filming that night. I don't lock up because of thieves anymore. Texarkana is quiet now. Too quiet, sometimes. But every spring, around the same time those first killings happened, the crickets stop. The air thickens. And if you're standing real still, engine off, lights out, you might hear it. That long, slow breath, just behind the glass. I keep my head down, pretend I don't hear it, because folks who look too long into the dark around here usually don't look away again.
People talk big about the Hoffa case. Mob hits, secret burials, conspiracy this, conspiracy that. But I remember July 30, 1975 for a different reason. I was hauling lumber down Route 16, just north of Bloomfield Township. Hot, humid day, air thick like soup. Around 2:30 p.m., the CB radio exploded with static. Not normal static, but the kind that crackles like someone whispering into a wire. Then I heard it. "They're here already. Parking lot. That's him." I pulled over near the Macus Red Fox restaurant. Saw a man in a dark suit by the road, sweating, pacing, checking his watch like the world was ending. Something about him looked cornered. 5 minutes later, a burgundy sedan pulled up. 2 men inside. The suited man hesitated, then climbed in. The door shut. The car drove off. I thought nothing of it until the evening news said Hoffa vanished the exact same hour. Here's where it turns strange. For years after, every time I drove that same stretch, same time of day, the radio would cut out. Same static, same broken whisper. "They're here already. Parking lot. That's him." Last year, trucks stopped routing that way. Too many weird complaints. Radios glitching, truck lights dying, GPS looping in circles. Road crews swear the asphalt cracks in the same pattern every July. People think Hoffa's buried under a stadium or dissolved somewhere. Me? I think roads hold memories like bruises, and Route 16 remembers everything.
You remember faces when you work in a diner long enough, especially the lost ones. Paula came in on December 1st, 1946, a Sunday evening, quiet, cold enough to freeze breath on the glass. She had that student look, cardigan, red scarf, pencils in her pocket, ordered a grilled cheese and a cola, barely ate, kept staring out the window toward the long trail. I asked her if she needed a ride. I had a bad feeling. The kind you don't ignore. She smiled, polite but far away. "No, ma'am, I just need a walk to clear my head." She left a quarter tip.
That quarter still sits in my drawer. Around midnight, the sheriff came knocking. A girl had gone missing. The hikers said they saw her walking, but never coming back. I told them what she ate, what she wore, how sad her eyes looked. They searched the woods for weeks. Dogs, planes, volunteers, not a single track. Snow fell, erasing everything like she was never on this earth. But here's the part I never told anyone. In '62, 16 years later, a man came into the diner. Had the same red scarf, same pattern, same frayed threads on the end. Ordered the same grilled cheese. Ate it slow. When he left, I tried to follow him, but he vanished behind a truck and was just gone. Sometimes when I open the diner at 5 a.m., the bell over the door rings, even though no one's there, and the smell of grilled cheese lingers in the empty booth she sat in. People disappear in these mountains, but Paula, she stayed, just in a different way.
I lived across from old Mr. Philip Peters on Moncrief Place, a quiet widower, always watering his tomatoes at sunrise. Nothing strange about him. The strange part lived above his ceiling. People think the Spider-Man story is a legend, but I watched pieces of it unfold right from my front porch. For weeks in 41, I'd see lights in his attic window at night. The thing is, Philip didn't go up there. Not once. Could barely climb stairs. I told my husband. He laughed. Probably rats, he said. Rats don't scratch shadows against the glass. Then one afternoon the police came running. Someone had beaten Philip to death inside a locked house. Windows sealed, doors bolted. Snow outside untouched. They said it had to be someone he knew, someone with a key. But years later, when they finally caught the intruder, Theodore Conies, we learned the truth. He'd been living in Philip's attic for months, crawling down to eat scraps, slipping behind doors, hiding in crawl spaces like a spider, waiting for darkness. Here's what people don't know. After they arrested Theodore, the attic window across the street stayed lit some nights, even though the house was empty, condemned, and padlocked. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and swear I saw movement, a shape, pacing back and forth. The house was demolished in the 60s, but if you stand in the empty lot, you'll hear it. A faint creak above your head, like weight shifting on old beams. Some things don't need a house to hide in. Some things just follow the dark.